I didn't like dolls or sparkly things. I didn't want to be a princess, and I sure as hell didn't want a pony. No, at 3 years old, after a trail ride through the mountains with my family, I wanted a big, wild, spirited stallion. My dad recognized my passion immediately and began taking me riding. By the time I was 7, I was taking riding lessons on mostly ponies because I was so tiny. By the time I was 11, I was already feeling unchallenged and decided to take on jumping. My teenage years were filled with jumping, which I loved, and competition, which I hated. Show culture was tougher than the actual competition. I didn't fit in and found myself quickly rebelling against it. I would place last or not at all, and soon after, I stopped competing altogether. After moving to California and attending college, I began jumping again. I started taking lessons and found myself judged and treated coldly by my fellow barnmates and even my own instructors. I wasn't the most talented rider. I couldn't afford my own horse, equipment, or to compete, but always gave it my all at every lesson. To many instructors, that wasn't enough. I was consistently met with animosity at every subsequent barn I tried out. By the time I found Coal Canyon Ranch, I was pretty bitter and distrustful. When I met Kathy for the first time, I told her immediately that I wouldn't be competing. I couldn't afford it and had little interest in it, but I was passionate and determined to be a great, polished rider. She smiled and said she would keep my best interests in mind, regardless of whether or not I wanted to compete. She said she wouldn't judge me for that. She never has, and I've never looked back.
My name's Kathy Robertson. I train competitive jumping horses, give riding lessons to those interested in advancing their riding skills. I love the horses. It's kind of a form of freedom, and especially jumping is. It's a great adrenaline rush, and having a fast, clean go, that's a fabulous feeling. Earliest memory would be with my father. He'd just sit me right in front of him in the saddle, and we would go for a trail ride on either Saturday or Sundays. When I was a kid, my parents felt like I was getting a little too brave with the horses, so I started when I was 7, riding like lesson horses. When I became like 8 years old, I ended up riding in the community that I grew up in, and just always very fortunate that that area had a big draw for really good trainers. As a kid rider, there weren't a lot of, obstacles. My parents were really behind me, but then I lost my parents when I was a kid, and the riding became more difficult then, of just because I had to figure out ways to finance it for myself. Well, I worked a lot of different odd jobs in the horse industry, working as just a rider for other trainers. I started out by doing an up-down string, like a lesson horse string. Got a job up in the Bay Area here as like the head hunter-jumper trainer. Ended up getting offered an opportunity to become an owner in that business, and did so. So I branched out from that and started up what I have today, which is Fox Valley Farm. I still always had the love and the drive to do it, so I made sure I got it done. When I first started teaching,
Wonderful.
I had this idea in my head that everybody wanted to be a competitive rider.
Good. Little soft hand for a stride or two. And then you pick your...
And I kind of had this idea also that even if you didn't want to be a competitive rider, you should want to learn to be that good of a rider.
Excellent.
And what I've learned over the years is I need to pay attention to what that student's focus is.
She works with you on what you'd like to learn how to do as a student. She taught me how to persevere and reach my goals.
I had an instructor when I was a kid who made me understand what it took in order to be competitive and to be a really good rider and be very detail-oriented. He was really good in the fact that he had some really, really wealthy customers with really nice horses, but he always treated me exactly like them. He never really played favorites. He wanted everyone to be a good rider.
My favorite thing about Kathy is her unending patience with her students. I don't know where she goes to get it, but she's got a lot of it. I think there's been a couple of lessons where she said to me, Jennifer, you just give up so easily. Don't give up so easily. Keep going, keep asking. And she's always right.
I don't spend more time with one person because they can go further. I try to be very equal with everybody.
Kathy and I had a long background with a little horse that I actually bred and raised and retired. And as retired horses go, one day I got the phone call that said, you know, he's in trouble, you need to come. I went out there and the lady who owned the place called the vet, did the exam. He didn't come home. Sunday morning that my doorbell rang. I opened the door and it's Kathy. I said he didn't come back and I'm just kind of wallowing in it right now because it's pretty hard. The amazing thing to me is there is no way in hell she could have known that anything was really wrong. And yet somehow Kathy knew about it. It was just like, yeah, I somehow knew you were in trouble and I needed to come help you. And it was a very cool thing that I will never forget.
I want them to feel as if they have some success, how great that feels when they kind of make a breakthrough and they feel that great oneness that you can be with that horse, that partner, that team, and how the two of you communicate without words.
It's been 2.5 years that I've been riding with Kathy. I found that oneness in a gentle giant named Mel. Kathy encouraged me to show, and surrounded by great friends, I had a blast. And even brought home a couple of second-place ribbons.